Hey y'all, my name is Angelica. I'm the owner of the Math Magician Bookkeeping and one of the students in Bryce's coaching program. And today I wanted to discuss with you successful tips on how to have a great first consultation with a potential client. So I am by no means an expert at this, but this is just things that I have actually learned from Bryce in his program. And I figured that I would pass some of this information along to you because it's actually been really helpful for me. So let's go ahead and talk about things that you should be doing and saying during your consultation to make it successful. And I also wanted to share with you an example of a consultation that I've had that actually turned out to be successful as well. So let me go ahead and jump in. So one of the first things that I suggest before you even start your consultation, whenever they actually want to have a consultation with you, is have them fill out some kind of form. So for me, I actually made a form through Google Forms, and then I embedded it in my website and use a company called Form Facade to make it look like my brand. And I'm basically going to show you what that form looks like right here. Okay, so this is what my Calendly looks like. Whenever they get this link, there is this form that they fill out. This form goes straight back to my website, but I actually made it with Google Forms. But it's this questionnaire right here. And basically I did through Form Facade to make it look more like my brand. But it goes into some details, their name, company name, address, what can they tell me, their entity, how many accounts, any business loans, do you track inventory, how do you prepare invoices, are your tax returns up to date, do you report sales tax, do you require payroll, how often do you want your financial reports done, have you ever used a bookkeeper before, are there any additional members I should communicate with, do you expect me to contact third-party members, would you like business advisory services, so on and so forth, and then they can submit that to me, and then I'm able to actually look at their response and see how I can get them set up. So once you have all that information from the form, it becomes so much easier to decide where you want to start and how to price certain things before the consultation even happens, and then that way you have an idea how to move forward. Now, once you're actually doing the consultation, just be yourself, be relaxed. Don't feel like you have to go crazy and impress them. That's something that I've always struggled with, and I still continue to struggle with, as I always feel like, oh, I really have to get this client, and I'll kind of end up going slightly overboard and talk myself up about all these great things that I can do to help them out. And meanwhile, I'm not really focusing on the client and how I can actually help them. I'm more just focused on, look at me, I can do all these things, and it may be helpful to them, but it's not what they want to hear. So you can start off your consultation by having just some small talk. Hi, how are you? Where are you from? What's the weather doing there? So on and so forth. Maybe finding some kind of commonality. Usually, if I'm getting their information off of LinkedIn or Alignable, Facebook, what have you, I like to go to their profile before I do the meeting and just make sure I have some more knowledge about them and their business. If they have a website, I like to look it up. They might have an about section. It shows a picture of a dog or something, and that's something that you can kind of find relatable and a commonality that you can speak about. But then from there, whenever you're actually trying to get into the meat of it, you want to set the agenda. This is real important for you to make sure that the agenda is being set by you and that you're controlling the consultation, not the actual client. Because some clients can be very pushy and forward, and you want to be the one in control, because when it comes down to talk about the price, they may feel like they can change things up with that. So once I've had that small talk and we've established some kind of common ground with each other, possibly, I usually like to set that agenda. And the way I usually do it is just by going like, oh, that's so great to hear. I'm glad, that you're doing well. And I just wanted to let you know what I'd like to set out to do in this consultation today. It's kind of an introduction to get to know each other, but a way to establish what your goals are, what processes you have in place, and to make sure that I can help you out. So you're basically setting the agenda by what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to establish. You can say it a little bit better than that. I didn't say it the best, but usually I say something like that. And another thing that I usually like to start off with is asking, what motivated you to want to book a call with me today? And this will bring up a whole slew of things. I'll show you later on in the actual phone call that I have of what his purpose was. But this just kind of makes them think about what their actual issue is and gets that out on the table. And then you can proceed to go further by asking these pain point questions. So something you can say is, what is the number one struggle that you feel like you have with your accounting or bookkeeping system at the moment? Or you can say, what is causing you to struggle with this? And they may or may not realize certain things, and it just kind of gets them to think about what their actual issue is. And then later on, you can bring that back up and go, whenever they're deciding like, oh, I don't know, if I really want to go through with this right now, you can basically kind of use that against them to a certain degree, not necessarily against them, but to remind them of how much they're struggling and how much they actually need your help. So some other questions you can ask is, why did you choose right now to do that? It kind of goes along with what motivates you to reach out to me right now, but it's more so like, why is right now the specific time? And it could be that they just had a baby, maybe they're growing, they just don't have enough time, they have health issues, so on and so forth. There could be a whole criteria of things that are causing them to want to book a call with you. You could ask them, what prevented you from making a change in the past? What's your current process? What does it look like? Have you tried something different in the past? And have they tried using a different bookkeeper? And on that form that I was talking about, I usually like to ask, have you ever used a bookkeeper before? If yes, what could they have done to improve? That way, whenever I actually can work with them, I make sure that I stay away from whatever issue it was that the previous bookkeeper had. The other day I spoke with someone and they said that their previous bookkeeper just kind of randomly emailed them, and they preferred to actually be emailed like once a Monday or like the very first day of the month, and they liked it more structured as opposed to a little more sporadic and random. And I was like, that's really good to keep in mind, because I probably would have been one to just email you when I needed something. So it's good to know those things. And then to drive those pressure points home, you can basically ask, if we don't get this solved, what does the future look like for you in your business? What does this prevent you from doing? Could you possibly not get that loan that you really need for your business? Could you possibly not make enough money to go on that vacation you really want to go to? Could you possibly not retire? There's all kinds of different things. Basically, you're trying to set it up where you're really making them think about what their issue is and how badly they really need you. So once this is done, you can go, okay, well, I think that I could help you out. And, here's some of the things that I feel like I could help with. And what I like to do from this point is go over the form with them that they filled out and make sure I have all the correct information. And I usually already have a proposal written up from that form that they filled out. But before I mention anything about the price, I go back through the form with them, just pretty lightly, just touching on a few important questions. And then I'll, give them the proposal as needed. At that point, before you ever do a proposal, once you say, I think I could help, you could proceed to book a second consultation with them, where it's a little more in depth and you can discuss those questions, and if you wanted to break it up. But I've noticed for myself, if I do try to do a second consultation with someone, there is a good possibility that they may not want to book that with me, or they just may not have time. They may forget. And I guess it's like fishing. Like, if you already got them on the line, why not reel them in? Why let them off the hook whenever you could just proceed to reel them in and try to bring them back to home, whatever. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and show you a conversation of a consultation that I did that actually went really well, and show you how I used some of these, how I used some of those questions that I was talking about in a realistic setting for an actual consultation. So to preface this, I had set up a consultation with this gentleman, and he ended up having sort of an emergency where he had to drive a few hours to get to a certain location. And while he was driving, he still wanted to have a phone call with me at least instead of a Zoom meeting. So he had called me while he was driving, and we had discussed it. So it was a little bit different than what I'm used to. It was a little more informal, but it still actually turned out really good. So let me go ahead and show you this call here.
Typically, the way I like to usually lay out these meetings is to kind of get to know a little bit more about you, your business, what are some things that's going on with you right now, like the reason that you want to reach out to me, I guess, like how do I phrase this? What exactly are your needs, I suppose?
Well, I'm looking, I guess more along the line, are you an accountant? Basically, are you, statements, I've been using this young lady she's been kind of working for me for a while now, but she's working, it's kind of, she has a job, she works with HCA,
okay.
And so she helps me part-time, which means, and my business is growing, and I'm looking for somebody that I can really kind of work with on a, sometimes I need certain things and then I can't get them, because we buy a lot of property as well. And, every time we buy something, we have to have some type of financial statement or something, that paperwork is just needed at the drop of a dime. And sometimes I have to wait a little longer than I would like to get the paperwork, right? And I'm not saying that you could do any better. Hopefully, you might not be able to do any better, but I'm trying to find somebody that this is what they do. This is something they do full time, and they're more prepared for situations like that.
Why would now be a good time to fix this? Like, why, I guess, would you reach out to me now?
Because we're growing. And we've almost doubled in volume of business. That's the scary thing, is that we're growing. Nashville, I don't know where you're from. Are you where you local? The growth is it's crazy.
Yep.
And it's like, there's not enough labor. There's actually not enough contractors in the city. It's just tremendous as to what's just falling on our plate. But I'm getting to a point now where I'm going to have to start turning away business because of until I can make sure we can get certain types of structures in place. I want to.
So you can tell I had asked him, what made you specifically want to reach out to me now? And he basically said, well, we're growing. Basically, the infrastructure in Nashville is growing, causing my business to get bigger. And without certain systems in place, I've actually had to turn away a couple customers. So that's a really good pain point for me to use, because myself as a bookkeeper, if I could help him with some of those systems, those bookkeeping systems, he possibly could accept more clientele, more customers, and keep growing his business instead of having to turn them away.
I get some of these things that put some pieces in place.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like it's something I could help you with, because a little bit about me is, obviously I do the bookkeeping, so not only do I organize your transactions and make sure that everything is categorized in the right spots for tax time, for deductions and such, but sorry.
So basically I just kind of go on to tell him a little bit about what my process looks like. And then in between, whenever you're asking those questions, you're going over it, or you're talking about what your process looks like. One of the things I didn't do in this consultation that I would suggest you do is pause every now and then and just ask, is that something that sounds like that would be helpful to you? Does that make sense? Basically, you want to ask questions to kind of engage that client back in, because you can kind of lose them and they don't really care as much about what you're doing, even though it's really important that they know. Most of the time at this point, they're kind of thinking like, okay, how much is it going to cost for you to help me? I've already told you my situation. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to where we kind of get towards the end of the conversation and how he gets excited and feels like I would be able to help him and moves forward.
On top of it for him. And like I said, my method is, at the beginning of every month, just getting your bank statement, making sure that your bank account matches what is in the actual bookkeeping system, and categorizing it properly, obviously making sure it balances out, And then based off those categorizations, being able to look at those reports and tell you what can be done to help improve, and then just having those reports on file. That way, if you do need to purchase a property or apply for a loan, you have that information at hand for you.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And now we use ADP, okay? I'm a W-2.
So then he kind of tells me a little bit about his payroll situation and so on and so forth. And towards the end, we ended up just talking a little bit more. I had sent him a form for him to fill out at the end of this, and then he proceeded to move forward with services with me. So that is one way how to do a successful consultation. It takes a while to actually get used to it. I am not a salesperson by any means. I hate having to sell anything. I'm very awkward when it comes to taking money from people. So it's just awkward for me to talk about price with anything. But having that form, like I was talking about, really helps you kind of get an idea of how to even charge them at the beginning. And like I said, in this consultation, he hadn't filled out a form beforehand, but he did afterwards and then proceeded to work with me. But yeah, so I hope that this video was helpful to you. If so, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that this content is helping you. And feel free to subscribe to Bryce's channel because there's tons of really good videos on here for bookkeepers. And if you want to learn more of how to actually have a good consultation, because I only scratched the surface on what Bryce has taught me, feel free to click the link in the description and in the comment section below to schedule a call with Bryce. So anyways, I hope that y'all enjoyed the rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.